We are joined now by Sergei Erofeev, who is a sociologist from Rutgers University and our regular contributor to TVP World. Welcome.
Hello, Carolina. Hi, Ashim.
Hello there.
Well, with the European elections just round the corner, has the Russian interference intensified recently, would you say? Or is it basically business as usual?
Well, in many ways, it's business as usual, but we remember that the Financial Times recently made quite a news forwarding the message from the European intelligence communities that the Kremlin is going to intensify its covert actions of various kinds. So this might be part of the same big plan for Mr. Putin. It's business as usual in a way, because for the first time, I heard about the Kremlin's influence on the European parliamentaries 10 years ago from the American political scientist Karen Davisha, who wrote about Putin's crony capitalism. So it's a part of Putin's crony capitalism trying to stay in power, and Putin's mafia system needs outside operations, not always active measures, as they say, not only bombings and killings, but also softer influence. And then we have to remember that a mafia ruler like Putin will always try to use three main instruments. One is corruption, just paying money, buying people, and that's what he has been doing with European Parliament members for many years now. It only becomes more transparent recently. Number two is to convince people to do something. This is the most difficult thing. There are hardly many people in Europe, maybe some very, very marginal thinkers and actors who would like to really honestly work for Mr. Putin. Not like in the 1930s, in between the war period, when there were hundreds and thousands of supporters of the Soviet Union. So nothing of the kind. And number three is intimidation and threats. So I will not be surprised if there will be another scandal after a while, when it will be revealed that some European actors, political actors, MEPs or someone else or that kind, will have appeared to have been threatened by Mr. Putin by his blackmail, trying to expose some shady things or some indecent things performed by European citizens. So, but at the moment, the most obvious thing is number one, just buying people. And that way it's business as usual. And of course, this doesn't mean that we should denigrate the importance of the forthcoming elections. Of course, Mr. Putin wants to keep as many people as much as his wallet allows on his payroll, directly or indirectly. So one should be prepared for that. The only remedy is probably the internal political processes in every European country, when there would be barriers for people like de Graaf. And we already saw how Mr. Kroch decided to step down, which is quite a surprise for AfD. Good news. So people like de Graaf with time should be really limited access to political positions like that.
Yes, but Sergei, thanks for laying that out for us. But here's the thing. In this particular case, with this staffer, yes, his connections were with extreme right-wing parties. But is that always going to be the case? I mean, are there staffers and others close to the corridors of power in the European Parliament who are perhaps less obvious in their political preferences, who have yet to be discovered?
Well, there might be more people discovered, especially if it's not MEP.
Unfortunately, we're having a bit of a technical problem. We'll try and get Sergei back. He's joining us from the United States, so these things, of course, do happen from time to time.
They do happen, but wasn't it interesting that he sees a very clear distinction between people who are actively paid by the Russians, who are in majority, and the useful fools who just do it for,
absolutely.
Who knows why.
No, absolutely. And it's very concerning. It's very concerning. How many more of these people are there? And if Russia's doing it, you can guarantee that China's doing it too,
of course,
and other bad actors. So one does wonder how independent our European parliamentary system is, especially in light of the upcoming parliamentary elections. But let's hope that this is a wake-up call, really.
Yeah.
Delighted. Sergei, welcome back.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of answering our question.
All right. So your question, Ashim, was about whether more is to be discovered there. I think there will be, because Mr. Putin still has sufficient resources to interfere with European affairs. It's an important part of his repertoire. First of all, of course, he needs something like arms supplies from China. That would be the most desirable thing. Second is money, again from China. But also, as long as he has these resources and financial resources, he can corrupt people like Mr. Pradura, those staffers who obviously are least likely to have political preferences. It's a very cynical situation. These people just work for whoever pays. That's the easiest guess, although I have no investigation material in my hands.
So the picture, the very grim picture that you're describing right now, really reminds one of a almost Cold War situation where a group, the shadowy group is being paid directly or indirectly from Putin's pocket. But what about the use of new technologies? We see online on social media, especially here in Poland, people who seem to be actively supporting Putin online. It's very hard to read a Facebook post or a Twitter post without seemingly four voices from supposedly Polish accounts supporting Putin. Do you think Putin is using some sort of an AI technology to drum this image of support without really just paying particular staffers or politicians?
Good question, Carolina. We should really be aware of the fact that AI technologies are becoming more competitive and more accessible and more affordable for people like Putin. And he definitely still has some engineers and scientists, despite the fact that many left the country after the war broke out. Nevertheless, compared to the 1930s, the interwar period, and the height of the Cold War after the end of the Second World War, there is no comparison as to the scale of the interference. Mr. Putin does not have any support in any way approximating ideologically what Mr. Stalin and Khrushchev and Brezhnev had in Europe in the past decades. So what he has to do is to continue to make impression that his information war is extremely successful. Partially it's true. That's the most successful front for Mr. Putin, because he has less success on the battlefield, even less success with brainwashing the Russians, as he has a huge, relatively huge success engaging his information war against Western societies, and even making Western politicians believe that he's very powerful and that his information war is very, very successful. No, his information war is far from being that successful, and he has to pay cheap bots, like you mentioned, the Facebook comments in Poland or other countries. So this is a mixture of bad and good news for us and for Western liberal democracies and for Ukraine. So Mr. Putin is no way capable to seriously disrupt the Western political operations, but he wants to create an impression that he can disrupt them, and one should be really aware of that.
Well, thank you so much. Let's finish with that sort of very mixed, very various shades of grey picture, and hope for the best for our elections.